Hey everyone, welcome to River City Media. It's Phil Harris, Randall Cunningham. Phil, we got a special guest tonight. I'm gonna throw it to you to introduce our guest because we're privileged and honored to have this young coach with us. So go ahead with it.
Well, we want to introduce, of course, Coach Luke Pruitt of the Pisgah Eagles. Coach, this is about your fifth season at Pisgah now. It's great to have you on board, and things are looking pretty good for the Pisgah Eagles right now.
Yes, sir. We're 2-0, and we've got off to a really good start. So we're happy where we are, but we're not satisfied. We have things ahead of us and goals to reach, but we are happy how we started.
Well, Coach, first thing I want to ask you, what inspired you to become a coach? I know your dad's longtime coach, Dale Pruitt, who's at Plainview right now, still kicking along. You know, it's amazing, the job he has done over the years. But what really inspired you to become a football coach?
Well, Dad played a major role. I thought about possibly being a lawyer. My mom wanted to be anything but a football coach. But I went and walked on at Jacksonville State, and, when I saw the impact that Dad had on young men, and that was something, that interested me there. And I came back. I didn't travel my first year, and I came back and, got to be on the headset with him on Friday night, and I made my mind up then that that's what I wanted to do. So, but Dad played a major role in that. Growing up around it, him coaching me or whatever, and seeing the impact he's had and he's continuing to have. So, he's the main influence to that.
Well, Coach, how big an influence is he on you? Do you still talk to him from time to time and ask for advice, or do y'all even trade out advice? Do you still talk to him often about football?
We do. I was actually there last night getting my kids, and I had some questions, but we talk weekly. It's still X's and O's often, but a lot of times it has to do with running a program and his advice from his experience with different issues that might come up. But he's the first one I turn to. But I also call Jeremy for X's and O's as well.
Yeah, that's two good ones to be asking questions about, because both of them have been around and seen a lot of different things. Well, tell me this, Jeremy, how does your philosophy different from your dad's?
Well, it's really similar. I guess one of the things that he did it and kind of stole it. He started from the youth, from the ground up, and that's something that I wanted to install when we got here. But there's not a lot of differences, I don't believe, in our philosophy. But, that's one of the things that I stole. Like you said, different. That's going a different direction with my question or the answer. But that's something that I felt like we needed to do. So right now, offensively, he's different. We're in the gun, but we still run the ball. And he's under center more. So that's a difference now, but it's more of a personnel than anything. It's not it's kind of what he inherited and whatever there. But, that's something that it goes back to it. There's different ways to slice a piece of the pie, but, you get the same results. So hope that answered it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, one thing I've noticed, Coach, and of course, I deliver up around the Pisgah area, so I get to talk to a lot of people. And, of course, I knew this already because I've talked with you time to time. But it's amazing, how are you able to remember all the kids' names in your program? I've even had parents tell me that they might have two kids that plays football, and then they've got a daughter that don't play football, yet you still know her name. How are you able to do that? I know Coach Pruitt, he kind of sort of pokes fun at himself. He can't remember names, so he remembers everybody by numbers.
Right.
Coach Dale does. But you remember, how are you able to do that?
I honestly don't know. The good Lord bless me with that ability, but I try to associate something with their name. Where I can remember it, because if you remember, I liked it when people remembered my name. What camp or what somewhere one of the coaches would say something and try to make it personal. I just think that, make it personal with the kids and, try to make a friend that, they have somebody there that makes them want to come back, but I try to always, make a point of it to remember the kids' names. But that's something, I was just talking about Dad. Dad can remember what they played, their stats, their position, first name, last name, nickname, something. I'll ask him, I'll be with him, and he'll be like, hey, that was so-and-so. He played the years or whatever, and usually I can figure it out if he can't remember. But yes, I try to, all of our kids, it's a small community, and they are a lot of younger brothers and sisters, but to the players, but I try to associate their names somehow where I can remember it.
Well, Coach, going behind the scenes a little bit, can you describe a little bit about a typical football practice for your football team?
Well, every day's kind of different. Monday's kind of a long day. Right now, currently, our kids are choosing to come in before school where we can watch the film and put it to bed. We bring them in at 6. We watch it, feed them breakfast. Then they go about the day. We lift that afternoon. When we get out there, Monday is install day. So we're installing. We have a lot of individual, a lot of, it's kind of a slower pace, I guess you could say. We're hitting their inside drill. We're hitting our skelly, past skeleton there, and then we get into team. And we do perimeter with it as well, but we do our circuits on earlier in the week, blocking circuit, tackle circuit, turnover, whatever it may be for the day. But that's kind of how we do it. All of our kids have a position on both sides of the ball, so we don't have enough kids. We have to cross train them. So we're trying to, and that's 7 through 12 that's with us. But that's kind of a typical Monday that we just went through. Today, as the week progresses, kind of the scenarios change and all that.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you this. How do you balance the importance of academics and football? Because, you want to get these kids through school. How important is that for you?
Well, I'll be honest with you. When we get into it, that's something that, slips by, keeping these all the kids or whatever handled. Our teachers help us do a great job, and our principal, Mr. Darwin, he helps do a great job. We have these committees that are set up. If we have a kid that's in trouble in the class, they may not be failing the class, but may be struggling in the teacher's mind, they get put on this list, and I get notified of all the football guys, so they help us there. But, last week we were at the midterm or a week and a half ago where they have to come bring us, their grades. And, they have to, if they're not A's and B's, or sometimes a C, but D's and F's, they have to do punishment for their D's and F's until they get them, get it up there. But that's something that, be honest with you, probably once we get into it, may slip the mind unless it's getting closer to, 9 weeks, whatever it may be, the final there. But our teachers help tremendously, like I said, because it's a small school, and they're like, hey, Coach, so-and-so, struggling here, and, ask them, do they need help, whatever. And, a lot of times some of our guys, some of our upperclassmen will tutor our younger kids. So that's something that a lot of times when we bring them in, like if we're on an e-learning day, we'll bring our kids in and we'll make them spend 2 hours doing their homework. And, and sometimes an older guy's perspective on something may can help them there. But that's something that we do because, if we have an e-learning day on a Friday, we come in and spend 2 or 3 hours doing their classwork while they're up here. So I don't want football to be an excuse for them.
And that's good the way things are now. Because I remember in the back when I played, it was just mainly pass, and that's all they really worried about. But it seems like a lot more schools, a lot more institutions, a lot more coaches do a better job of getting these kids through their classes, because you don't ever know. I mean, now you need to be going to college, or at least try to plan to get a trade. So academics is so much more important today than they were 20, 25 years ago. Well, Coach, I want to ask you about that. You talked about Coach Darwin. how important is he to your football program? I've known him for a long time, and he's a big sports guy. You know, he's good to have somebody to lean on.
Absolutely. If you've been in Coach Darwin's office, there's more Pisgah memorability than I've ever seen, you know, because he played here, he coached here on the good teams and the bad teams, you know, and he's been an assistant principal here. He's been a principal here. So, you know, he is a Pisgah guy through and through. And, you know, that's something that it matters to him. It means something to him because it's home, you know, and that's something that, you know, it's not always the place. You know, some people, they have a job and it's a job to them. This is not a job to him. You know, this is home to him. And, you know, that's something when the boss is for it and engaged in it, then everything else around it works so much better. And he's been great to work for. He comes down and asks what we need. You know, is there anything we need? You know, whatever. But you know, I still call him coach because I remember, you know, he was coaching when I played, and you know, and that's something, you know, to me that's a big deal. And a lot of our faculty that are from here are from Pisgah. And the support is great. You know, we got, you know, you're always, the mamas are going to be involved, the dads are involved, but your teachers are involved. You know, that's all the time. Coach, you need anything? You need anything? When it was hot, they were people bringing me stuff to give to our kids left and right, and I didn't ask for it. You know, it's just because they love, and you know, they love the school, and you know, Coach Darwin loves the school. Because, like I said, it's home to me. But that's a major thing when your boss is you know, it's where he's from, you know. And we have speakers come in. He's had former students come in and speak that are different places now, and just kind of showing the kids, you know, you graduate, you know, these are your opportunities, you know. And that's something that he's brought. But he's a Pisgah guy through and through.
Well, you know, and I, you know, out of respect, I still call him coach, and I've known him for years. I know he's principal, and he was principal at Woodville, but I still can't get myself to call him that. I still call him coach. You know, and he showed me the other day about the bleachers that y'all are getting for your new stadium. He's all excited about that, and that's got to be an exciting thing for you guys, getting new bleachers. I mean, these kids ain't going to get to play on it this year, but it's going to be great for the future teams at Pisgah.
Absolutely. When I took the job, Mr. Gibbs, who's passed away now, but you know, they promised that, you know, within 5 years that we would have, and it'll be next spring will be the end of 6. But anyways, what he said came true, and how it went about this year, the temporary, you know, it's kind of, you know, we made it work, and you know, and Coach Darwin's right there spearheading it. At the end of July, you know, I didn't know if we was going to play at home, but thankful to our new superintendent that you know, he made it happen, and our board made it happen. Mr. Davison and our board, that you know, they gave us that opportunity to get to play at home, and you know, it's something that those seniors will always get to have, is you know, get to play at home. But the stadium, I can't wait. It looks great. You know, and that's going to be something that we can utilize in the off season as well, doing things with it. But it's going to be a great place, and for our fans to come, it's going to be safer for our fans. It's going to be a great place to watch a football game.
Well, Coach, you know, moving along and get toward football a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your staff and how important they are to you, and maybe name some of the guys' names that don't get a whole lot of credit.
Well, you go back to, you know, I was mentioning Coach Darwin. Well, nearly every one of my guys on staff graduated from here and played here. And, you know, I can walk you through every single one of them. When I took this job at Pisgah, there wasn't a lot of people that were beating down the door, because I'm the one without any experience that got the job. But my OC is Adam Gilbert. and he's been head coach other places. He graduated here, played at the next level. But we came home. He was at Scottsboro. He came home because it's home to him. And he called me. He was at Scottsboro at the time. He called me when I took the job and said, congratulations. If anything I can ever do, you let me know. 2 or 3 years later, we continued to talk. We checked in, and I was able to hire him. And he's done a great job on calling the offense for us. And another guy of that was Joey Kirby. We got Joey back. He's a Pisgah guy as well. And he was coaching at North Sand, and he called me and said, "Hey, Coach, if you ever get an opportunity," he said, "I'm a Pisgah Eagle. That's what, I'd love to be home if I can." And we were able to get him back 2 years ago, and he helps coach our linebackers and helps me with the front seven. And then the next one is Dave Yarnell, is our D-line coach, and helps the offensive line. The very first day, he's the first person I meet on campus before I get out of the car. He said, he was over our Pee Wee program. He said, "I'll help you. If you don't want me, I'll go home." He said, "I'm still going to do the Pee Wees, but I'd love to help anyway." And he's been with me from the start. And then Dwayne Bell, I met at the team meeting. He coaches our outside linebackers and coaches our wide receivers. I met him that day, same deal. He had a son that played on the first 2 teams I had. He said, "I'll help you any way I can." His wife's over our lunchroom. They're right there with us every day. Dixie, Jason Williams, calling Coach Dixie. But he was at Woodville at the time. I knew him previously, been in Madison County. We played. He was like, "Coach, if there's any way, I would love to come on staff." These are guys that were coming on staff, wanted to be a part of it before we turned it. They knew what it was going to take. And another one that's Warren Jeffrey has been there. We were painting the first practice field. He was like, "I want to help. Is there anything I can do to get on board? I'm for it." And he helps us with our Pee Wees. He helps us still today. And then now I have a former player played for me, J.C. Martin. He came on board. He wants to go into it, and he was a great asset. But his dad went to school here, and he left East Limestone to come here to help try to change the program as a senior. They moved back. His dad had a job that made it possible, but he did it. But all those guys, Coach Dixie and myself are only 2 that did not graduate from Pisgah. The rest of them were there. They were on board before we got it turned. That says something about those guys that they believed, because they were successful when they played. And they knew what was the capability. And that's something that I tell. Last year we played North Jackson, first time in school history, and I didn't even say a word for a game. I let all those coaches what it meant to them to play them. And those guys, I appreciate all of them. And says something to me about them. It's easy to jump on board when everything's going good. It says something about guys to leave programs to get the opportunity to come home, and I'll be greatly indebted to those guys for doing that, making that sacrifice to come back and help get it right.
And of course, that also helps you establish the program and keep it, going, because those guys are going to be there. And the biggest thing with kids nowadays is building trust, and I think you have that. Well, Coach, you kind of spoke on this, and I was kind of meant to ask you about it. How important is your Pee Wee program? I know you got 3 sons playing on 3 different teams, so you're busy not only with the program but also rooting for your kids playing. But how important is that Pee Wee program?
It's huge. It's the lifeblood of your program, and we're fortunate how it works out. Right now, my youngest ended up not playing this year. I have 2 on the older 2 teams, but we have varsity coaches coaching all 3 levels. And, the oldest 2 teams run our offense and defense. So, but our Pee Wee program, Coach Arnold, Coach Jeffrey's done a great job. But it's the lifeblood of it. If you can't, if you don't get the kids in learning what's going on, that's more that you have to teach when you get there. But we're starting to see carryover is getting into our middle school, into our high school, because before I got here, we had established Pee Wee programs, and we've been reaping the benefits of it. But yes, it's vital. I don't see how, I didn't get to play when I was younger. Now I see it, let my boys play. How, the more you play something, the better you're going to become, and especially when you have quality coaches, and we do. So we have varsity coaches on all three levels, and, last week was our Pee Wee recognition night. We let our oldest team stay with us after school. They went through, watched our varsity guys walk through, and then they had their own walk through. It's the same place. They're picking up on the calls now. The varsity is a little more in depth, but it's the basic stuff. And then, they did pregame meal with us, and they went through warm-ups and ran through the tunnel and all those things with us. But, that's the lifeblood of your program.
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, I remember back in the days when I played Pee Wee, I've always loved Pee Wee football, because back in the days when I played, it was so much fun. Wins and losses were important, but it was more just getting out on the field and learning how to play the game. Because as you rise up, the wins and losses become more and more important. And sometimes that can take a little bit of the fun out of it. But if you've already established the fun at the Pee Wee level, it's going to make it fun for you when you get up at the varsity level.
Absolutely. I've yet to figure out anybody that, it's kind of like Allen Iverson, practice. The fun is playing the game with your buddies. You're right. The fun is playing the game, and winning adds to that. I haven't met anybody that likes to go get beat on in August and, the end of July. The fun's on Saturdays when they get to play. We try to make it fun to them. My wife has to go about once a week and get donuts because somebody's team, from the C team all the way through the varsity, shuts somebody out. We get them donuts. And, that's something we're just trying to give them a little incentive there to, we shut them out, we get them donuts. So, that's something the B team did at Saturday, our middle Pee Wee team. And, they're at the end of the game, they're chanting donuts. So, but absolutely, you want to, we want it to be fun. They got to learn when they're doing it. And if they're going to be out here, we're going to invest in them. We're going to invest time into them if they're going to be out there.
Well, Coach, I want to throw kudos to your wife, because she is very involved with the program, and I'm sure she takes a lot of the pressure off of you and makes it a whole lot of fun.
Absolutely. I got a steal. I'm not real sure. I'll keep my coverage, all those analogies you want to use, because she's a rock star. Because she has sisters. She didn't grow up around football, but she fell in love with it because she's married to it pretty much. And she's a great helpmate. She's right there with me all the way through. She always gives me advice that sometimes I take, sometimes I don't, but she always offers, I should have done this, I should have done that. But I have a ton of assistant coaches helping me here, and she don't have anybody at home. She's pretty much getting kids here and there. We've got 4, and she runs wide open, and she has a successful business. She redoes cabinets, and she paints interior homes. But and I don't know how she does it. She's got more energy than I do, but she's a godsend to me, and we're in it together. And for her to do that, but also all of our coaches' wives, they understand. We ask a lot of their husbands, and Laura could have. She sacrificed a lot of time that I'm not there. That she some nights on a JV night, she puts the kids to bed by herself. We make FaceTime or whatever. Technology's made it a lot easier, but I try to. I struggle with time management, but she's a rock and all that stuff. She gets them going there back and forth on Friday nights, even on Saturdays, because I help them on Saturdays. And then we go from football, we go into the other sports. I help with the boys and my own kids in other sports too. So she doesn't ever get a break. But yeah, she's a godsend to me.
Yeah, sounds like she does it because she loves it. Well, Coach, this year, of course, you're ranked number 3 in Class 2A right now. A lot of expectations for this football team. Last year, you were kind of sort of the cardiac kids, kind of rose through the ranks, won some close ball games, worked your way into the semifinals. And like Coach Darwin said, I'll take semifinals every year, but it'd be nice to take that step further. But this year, you're kind of more of the hunted. You know, there's a lot more expectations for the football team. How do you and how do they deal with these higher expectations?
You got to keep an edge on the kids. You know, that's something that, you know, Coach Saban calls it rat poison, whatever. We've got to continue to get better. Yes, you know, these expectations is because we had success last year. Well, that was last year. You know, we have to build on it, and you know, we got to go play, but we don't really talk about it. You know, we take one game at a time. You know, we're worried about Pisgah. You know, that's all we can control. You know, that's good that, you know, we're flattered the fact that we're ranked number 3, but, you know, the teams we're going to play is not going to roll over because we're ranked number 3. You know, we've got to go do what we're supposed to do week in and week out. And, you know, when it's over, we'll look up at the scoreboard and see what it says. But, you know, we talk about playing through it. You talked about us being the cardiac kids last year. You know, but one thing that helps us is we have a lot of experience coming back. And, you know, that's something the guys, they've been in the fire. You know, we got a lot of 3- and 4-year starters. Some guys it's first year that's rotated at different places in the past, but that's something that they do a pretty good job. You know, we talk about practice every day. You know, we can't worry about, you know, who we play Friday. We're just going to give half effort because we're better than that team. That's not how you get better. You've got to work every day and have that edge to get better a little bit at a time for the games down the road. And like you mentioned, like Coach Darwin mentioned, we want to play for that blue map. You know, we've got quality teams that we've got to go through to get there. You know, and this one coming this week is an important step in that direction.
Yeah, definitely so. Of course, I mean, you picked up a big win first game of the year against Lexington. I know they had a new coach, but here lately, that Lexington has had a very good football program. And of course, they jumped on them a little bit early. They made a game of it in the second half. But that was a big win for your guys because, you know, that was kind of that revenge factor because y'all snuck one away from them last year. Of course, you got a big win over a region opponent, Sandrock. And that brings me to Collinsville this week. This game decided second and third in the region. Of course, if you're going to win a region championship, of course, I know the goal with the first year is to first get to the playoffs, then host a playoff game, then win the region title. But this game is very important. Not only does it get you a step closer to making the playoffs, but it's one of those games you're going to point to and say, this could get us a home playoff game at the end of the year. So this is an important matchup with Collinsville. And Collinsville's got a good football team.
Absolutely. Kind of step back, you're talking about Lexington. Lexington was a really good football team, and, you know, we jumped out early and showed the potential that we have, but we celebrated a little too much at halftime and didn't put them away, which was a learning experience from us. We had a great week of practice last week. You know, I felt like we played pretty good last Friday night as well, but you're absolutely right. All of those things are goals going into the season. You want to make the playoffs. You want to host because that means you're first or second and your odds are higher. And then you want to win the region. And, you know, because you win the region, it puts you better for the bracket purposes. But Collinsville has a really good football team. Coach Willingham's a great football coach. And, you know, this football game last year, we were down in the fourth quarter. I brought that up today to our guys. You know, yes, we turned it over a few times, but you can't take nothing away from Collinsville. You know, they caused those plays last year. But that's something we had to come from behind, you know, and they're clicking on all cylinders. Coach Willingham's grandson does a really good job delivering the ball, and he has some weapons on the outside. You know, they fly around and tackle on defense. You know, it's going to be a really good ball game. It's going to be a playoff atmosphere. You know, it's the first time we're on the road this year. So, you know, we got a new first with different teams, you know, so that's something that we got to take in consideration when we head down there Friday night.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, Cody McAteer is a year older from last year. You saw some, you know, flashes of being a good quarterback last year. So he's a year older. And, of course, I know Collinsville is a lot better on the defensive side of the football this year too. So that's going to make it also a tough challenge for your team.
Yes. Now you mentioned Cody. Cody's his daddy. Now I hope Cody ain't playing. It's Mason. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But yes, he is a year older, and he's got a couple of weapons around him that's a year older as well. They play. I think they've been playing since they were in the 7th grade. A lot of them. I think they've had a couple of move-ins as well. Some skilled guys in their line of scrimmage. They've got a bunch of guys back. But you're right. That's something that year older. I was a coach's son. He's the coach's grandson. It's the same deal. They've been around it. He knows. He may be a freshman, but he usually plays like a little older, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But yes, they're going to be. They are really well on defense. I think they're ranked number 3 scoring average. They haven't given up a ton of points. So we're going to have our hands full. We go down there Friday night.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you about this. Of course, we'll let the season take care of itself. But, when you're out there with the kids, and I ask all coaches this because I know it means a lot to them. When you're teaching kids, when you're coaching kids, you see them out there, and you want your team to be player-driven rather than coach-driven, because if they're player-driven, they're going to be a lot more successful on the field. What does it mean to you when you see that light come on for players or individuals or teams, when that light comes on, when they really get it and you see it in their eyes? That's success. That's something. You see the light bulb go off. That's success because they've learned something. It's a teachable moment. It's the same thing that you see in the classroom. You see it out there. But you going back to, you mentioned players led. You have maturity usually with your kids. If it's players led, you do have more success because they have the ownership of it. But that's something. But going to it, it's a teachable moment. The aha moment, it makes you happy. It makes you smile because they figured it out. And that's like today we had questions. We always had questions on Monday. It's install day. We're putting in what we're going to run this week. We had a lot of good questions, because they know enough about it. And funny, today one of our younger freshmen, they were running the route, and they asked him, said, "Do you know what you're running?" They said, "Yeah." And he called it out. He called out what route he was running. And I had 3 seniors tell me what play was about to come. That's fun. They know. And that's what I talked to him. We went to a water break and called that kid over there. I said, because he plays on both sides. I said, "Hey, you said you run that route." He's like, "Yes, sir." I said, "If you're on the other side, does that make sense how they were calling it out?" Because all of them kind of gave him a hard time. It was like, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, it fits together, and that was a teachable moment for him. But, it's nice to be able for them to see those things and help those kids. Yeah, definitely. So, of course, Coach, I know you just been in about 5 years, but I know you still have kids come back and thank you. Because as you get more into coaching, you're going to be more involved in their lives because they're going to be the one that invites you to their wedding, brings their sons to them to see you and all that stuff. And that just goes to show you, winning's important. There's no doubt about it. But making these kids winners in the game of life is what a successful coach does, actually.
Absolutely. Some people may say that may be trying to take the easy way out, but if you're lucky, you have these kids 6 years, middle school all the way through high school. You get them more than their parents do. And it means a lot. I've got a couple that's married already that's got some young kids. They bring them around. I get to hold them. They get to bring them up there. I love it. Because they have it, they think enough to swing them by and let me see them. Or I'll be outside with my kids at home and they'll drive by and see me and they'll turn around. That's what it's about, because not all of them is going to play at the next level. They need to have a positive high school experience, but every one of them is going to have to go to work. Every one of them, hopefully, will be a father, get married, be a husband, be a father, And if I fail them at that, and our coaches fail them at that, then we fail them. And that's something that we strive to do our best at that, and I think we do a really good job with that. We're going to coach them hard. We're going to love on them too. We're going to love on them harder than that. But I want our coaches to bring their kids, and we have a lot of sons that's on our teams. But I want our kids to see our coaches being fathers to their kids, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. Because that's like the school board show I do. It's not about the money. It's not about promoting me. It's what I enjoy the most is what I get the feedback from others, how we inspire kids or inspire communities, because that's what this is all about. That's what I love about it, and that's what keeps me coming back and going to school board every Friday night. And I'm sure that's the same for you in coaching. That's what keeps you going in coaching. It's not the money and it's not the fame, because it's about relationships with people. That's the most important thing when it comes to competitive sports.
Absolutely. The relationships is the thing. You hit on it there. That everybody that's going to brag on your star player or whatever, and I'm not taking away anything from that, but it's those guys that may have one role and that's all they have, but they've owned that one role, and that's what football. I think football is the greatest game of all of them. I played them all. I wasn't good at any of them, but I think football teaches you more things about life, about getting knocked down, and when you get knocked down, to get back up. You're going to fail. It's going to happen. How are you going to respond once you fail? Once something bad happens, in life, something bad's going to happen. How are you going to respond from it? That's what tells about you. And I think that's why Dad wants us to play them all. I want my boys to play them all because they learn more in sports than I think anything about life. I'm not talking about school. I'm just talking about life lessons. There's tons of life lessons that are out there for you. That's the thing. You're going to fail. How are you going to respond to failure?
Yeah, I think what competitive sports really teaches these kids is not to get too high, not to get too low, keep on that happy medium. And when things go well, raise your head up. But when things go bad, don't put your head down. Keep pushing forward. And that's what's so important for these kids nowadays that a lot of them don't get anymore. It seems like kids nowadays struggle from self-esteem. They don't look people in the eyes. And I think, we're failing them at times. And that's where I think competitive sports really helps our kids.
Absolutely. The technology can be a hindrance a little bit. The fact of looking them in the eyes, being able to speak, being able to have conversations, like you mentioned. It's a lot easier to text, communicate, and we have a lot of great players on our football team, and I'm thankful for it. But a lot of them are not really, they're not super vocal kids. That's just not who they are. They do what they're supposed to do, and they'll get on your tail. But we don't have a lot, super vocal kids, and that's something that I attribute to, the technology of the day. They do what they're supposed to do, and they'll get on to them, but it's just not they're not rah-rah guys, and that's you don't have to be a rah-rah guy to be a leader, but that's just something that that I think, like you said, as society as a whole, we're failing them sometimes.
Yeah, definitely so. Well, Randy, is there anything you want to add? I've asked a lot of things, and he's given us a lot of good answers. Is there anything you want to ask about?
Coach, I got one question. We'll get you out of here. And we appreciate your time, and it's a great interview. Coach, how important was it for you when you were making the schedule that you play in that great Region 7, 2A, plus you played some marquee matchups outside of your region? When you were putting that schedule together, was that to challenge the kids? Was it to kind of grow the Pisgah brand, or what were you thinking of when you put it together?
It was a little of both. We had a lot of guys coming back. I'll be honest with you, this past time was a lot tougher to schedule than any time beforehand. But, you know, the Lexington game kind of came about. We had Plainview originally, and when Madison Academy got switched around, we had to go find a different game. But, you know, Coach Van called it Sylvania. That's in our backyard. You know, we wanted that one. We knew they were going to be pretty good. And I felt like last year, we got North Jackson the first time ever. You know, they're really physical. They were down last year, but that was a physical football game, and we got out of there barely with a win. But we wanted it to, you know, we felt like if we could stay healthy, it would make our kids better, and it did. You know, and, you know, that was the thing. We got beat by Sylvania, who got beat in the semis, and 5 beat us twice and 1-2-8, you know, and that was the thing. We wanted those matchups for the competition and to play really good quality opponents other than our normal schedule. And we felt like it benefited us in the long run. Once we got to the playoffs, we had seen a little more speed. And, you know, it was physical. We felt like it helped us.
Coach, having such good teams in the Jackson, DeKalb area, and being able to build your schedule that way, if you can get off that area, that mountain, as I call it, going to have some pretty good success, don't you think?
I think so. But, you know, that's something. You know, around here, football is important. You know, around here, a lot of the people, it's all blue collar around here. You know, and that's something. Football is important. The community sports as a whole is important. But you're right. If we get off of here, I feel like we're pretty physical around here. And if we get off the mountain, we have a great chance wherever we go. And you can see in the last couple of years, Jackson, DeKalb County schools have won some state championships in different sports. You know, and, you know, that's something that I think this area prides itself on, you know, because they are blue collar, you know, and like I said, it's important to them. It's important to the families and the parents. And if it's important to them, it's going to be important to the kids.
Coach, we appreciate you taking time. We've kept you a little longer than we said. Is there anything you want to throw out to your fan base, the quarterback club, anything you want to shout out on your way out?
I just want to tell them thank you for the support they give us. The ones behind the scenes, our quarterback club members, the ones that work at the concession stands and do all those things that behind the scenes that make it easier for us to be able to do our coaches do our jobs. And shout out to my wife for being there beside me and doing all the things at the house. Go Eagles.
Appreciate it, Coach Pruitt. Love to have you back sometime. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Coach Pruitt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck to you. We wish you the best.
Yes, sir.
Phil, Coach Pruitt, class act. And I could have talked to him for 2 hours, and I feel like every answer would have been new. He really, when we were up there at media days, no one gave a more genuine caring about his kids, caring about his program than Coach Pruitt did. And it's just a shout out to him as a person.
Yeah, it's amazing what he thinks of those kids. I mean, that's like when I've talked to him and like when they've won like Team of the Week, and I've been there, and his kids are there, and he he'll point out his kids, and then he points out other kids. And, it's all about it's like he's all focused on the kids around him. As far as what kind of people they are, and it's amazing to watch. How he remembers names is just beyond me. I told somebody one time, I said that he knows any given child. He knows their name, their parents' name, their grandparents' name, and what they had to suffer the night before.
Well,
and so it's just amazing what he remembers.
It is. Well, I also want to thank, we had such great participation from all the Eagles, the Pisgah Eagles listening to us. Like and follow us, share. We try to cover all the teams in the DeKalb, Jackson County area. And it's a privilege, Phil, for us to get to talk to people like Coach Pruitt and some of the other guests we've had on here. And, and Coach Pruitt kind of said it. If you get off the mountain, if you get out of Jackson to Cobb County, you got a chance to go somewhere in the state.
Yeah, and I think Coach Pruitt's like the other coaches we interview. We kind of try to stay away from the X's and O's things.
Yeah,
talk more important. Talk more about people and how their family is, and, without getting personal. But it's nice to hear them, talk about the community, not necessarily individuals, but talk to, everybody, because like we talk about assistant coaches don't get much credit. You don't get to talk about them very much. The kids get their name in the newspaper on Friday nights or Saturdays. The Daily Sentinel covers, of course, Pisgah football. But it's nice to find out a few things going on behind the area, and it's good to get to know these coaches this way, so you know what kind of makes them tick, and you know what to ask them. And Coach Pruitt gave some great answers, because he's a good family guy.
Absolutely.
Of course, his brother and dad, have had success in coaching too. So it's a pretty good family. Like he said that his mama didn't really want him to go into football coaching, but sometimes that's just when you're inspired by young people, and I think you and I are the same way. You can't help but stay attached to that. It's what you love. It's what you're drawn to, and you continue to do it. Yeah, I didn't want to be a football coach, but I'm getting to contribute on the outside looking in and still be able to work with young people.
It's full circle with me and the Pruitt family. The first game I ever called was at Plainview with Coach Pruitt. And then 2 years ago, before he returned to Plainview, I got to call his 300th victory at Sequatchie County, where I'm the play-by-play announcer. His 300th victory was on the other side of the field. And I remember talking to Coach Pruitt, the older coach, and I was like, my first game was with you in 1990, and then I'm going to call your 300th victory. And he kind of laughed about it, and just, we both have gotten old in the world of high school football, and I can't think of any other better way to do it if I'm not going to coach than the way we've done.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. Yeah, I don't see how Dale does it. I mean, he is still motivated. He still loves the kids, and he's inspired by them. And I don't know how he does it, but somehow he still has the energy to do it. It's amazing that he comes back year after year, because I would have felt like he would have, when he finished in Tennessee and Georgia, he was done with it. But he just keeps coming back for more.
Well,
like he says, he's not good enough at golf, and he's not good enough at everything. All he knows is football coaching. So he don't know any other way to pass the time.
He had a great quarterback up at Marion County, and I told everybody without talking to Coach, I was like, he's done once Tay graduates. Well, Tay's been graduated 4 or 5 years, and Coach keeps on coaching. So it's more than just winning and losing for him. Phil, we got about 45 minutes ourselves. We're going to have to get around the region and talk a little bit about what happened. Do you want to take a break or just go straight into it? Because we
can just go ahead and get it done if you want to. I don't know if I have all the information needed, but I got a good bit of stuff. I had to kind of run short of time on vacation this week, so I had to sort of make time.
Yeah, we were both on vacation, so maybe not as many scores, but I want to start in Georgia, where we've kind of ignored lately. And there were some big games in Georgia. I don't have a lot, but I want to talk about 10 games in particular. Calhoun gets a big victory over Cedartown, and that's always a big game down there in that middle Georgia area.
Oh, definitely so. Yeah, Cedartown's usually always good. Of course, Calhoun, we don't hear as much about them as we used to when they were playing, getting to the semifinals and finals, but they're still a quality football program. But, yeah, that's a huge win for them.
Chattanooga over Cola Creek, 17-14. And Dalton continues to kind of just roll along, 21-14 over Rockmount.
Yeah, Dalton, of course, they have been around a long, long time. They're kind of like the Baylor and McCauley in Chattanooga. Dalton has been a mainstay for years and years and years. And probably if you look at the North Georgia and Chattanooga area, the three mainstays you always talk about, are Baylor, McCallie, and Dalton because they seem to always dominate the headlines in high school football in the Southeast Tennessee and North Georgia area.
A game, the Ringo continues to struggle, Phil. They go down 31-7 to Gilmore County. Ringo is a good program. It's just maybe the kids are not there right now.
Well, I think they beat Heritage first year. I think they started out maybe 2-0, but that bunch they played's pretty good. I mean, when you're playing teams like that, there's so many because there's not small schools very much in Georgia anymore. All the schools are big, so when you get outside of the Northwest Georgia area, you're playing against stiff competition, and so a lot of teams are not successful outside those areas. Thankfully, all around the area, around the Ringo area, everybody's pretty competitive.
That Heritage team you're talking about over Ridgeland, who has continued to struggle. Ridgeland, a couple of years ago, produced NFL player, and then maybe the worst run in the Ridgeland school era. They go down to Heritage 28-7, but Ridgeland's got such a base down there; they'll be back.
Yeah, well, I think the coach there now, I know the guy that's the chaplain for the football team, and he was talking about he is trying to build that culture in a positive manner. They've got a lot of athletes this year. They don't really know which way it's going to go, but he's on the verge of, because he's starting from scratch, wants the kids to be great people on the field, off the field, trying to get a good workout program. So I think they're headed in the right direction. But it's a team that probably lacks a little confidence and needs to learn how to win.
Our North Georgia game of the week: Northwest Whitfield 38, North Murray 35. And Phil, every report on TV, in the newspaper, just said that this was a great North Georgia football game.
Yeah, I bet it was. Northwest Whitfield, a quality program, and like Kahula Creek's right there next to them. But Northwest Whitfield continues to be the mainstay in that general area right there. Of course, Ringo's not far from them either.
No, they're all.
Yeah, they're all in a big wad. But it's funny how my family's from the Tunnel Hill area. And you drive down through there, and you just drive, and you're headed to my family's area where they live. There's the school just sitting out there on the right.
Yeah.
But it's a big area they draw from. The Northwest Whitfield area is a big area to draw from. And who don't go to Dalton will end up going to Northwest Whitfield. But right now, Northwest has got things going on a good level. And
a couple of blowouts one-sided games. Sonorville 41, Lafayette 21, and Trine big over Gordon Central 65-6. Phil, you want to take us? We'll finish up with Tennessee and take us on to Alabama this week.
Yeah, you was talking about Trine. I saw them play Gordon Lee the first game of the year, and they look very impressive and have stayed very impressive. I think they struggled a little bit week 2 against Lafayette, but still won that game pretty easily. But, it's a team, you got a good shot. Of course, they've got to run into Darlington eventually, but looks like this Trine football team was pretty darn good.
What I've heard and been able to pick up, Trine may be the class of that area as far as complete football team.
You were talking about when we were talking about Pisgah having a good Pee Wee program. That's where Trine's secret is. They have a great Pee Wee program, and it extends into the high school level because once those kids come there to play at Trine, they're going to stay there.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
He has built up a great Pee Wee program, and that's why they're successful at the varsity level year after year. It ain't by accident.
Absolutely. Well, let's drop down to Alabama and update us on that North Alabama area.
Well, there's a lot of big games. Collinsville beat Section 39-6. Arab won a close game against Douglas 21-14. Florence beat Albertville. Of course, we talked last week about J.J. Stanton, who had died in a motorcycle accident on Monday. They had a real good pregame to honor him, where they came out, they brought his jersey out on the field, the team did, and then on the opening play of the game, both teams kneeled down on one knee, Florence and Admiral both, and they left his spot on the field vacant to honor him, because I reckon he was, from what everybody said, he was an outstanding kid. He made the varsity at in the ninth grade. This was going to be his 11th grade year, but it's just tragic, and just goes to show you how important life is, more than just football. But they had a big honor for him, and I was glad to see that because he was an outstanding kid. Of course, you hate to see that happen in any community. Of course, Westminster beat North Jackson last week, 56-35. Coosa won again. They beat Gillsville 49-0. Sylvania, what a huge win. They got the WQSB team of the week. Finally got that monkey off their back by beating Piedmont 23-7. And it was an impressive win, too, for Coach Van and his staff. I got to talk to him a little bit Saturday, and he was so glad for the kids, because this is one of them. You lay it out there and let the kids celebrate a little bit, because they got beat twice by this team last year. And that's one of them, you let them enjoy this game, because this was a big win for them.
Also, Coach Van, of course, I do the Coach Van show with him. He was 0-4 against Piedmont going into that game, so he had never had a personal coaching victory, too. So that's big for the whole program.
Yeah, and I guarantee he was a happy man when he went home late Friday night.
Absolutely.
Of course, Scottsboro's continued to roll. They've had some injury problems, but they still played well. They had like 560 yards rushing against Boaz and 163-38. I think it was 562 yards, set a school record, had it over 600 yards of offense. This Scottsboro team playing very well right now. Fort Payne, and they're scoring over 50 points per game. Their quarterback has been lighting it up. Bernador has already thrown for over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns in 3 ball games. They beat May Jemison 61-13. Of course, Geraldine, they continue to play well. They beat Plainview. They pulled away in the second half. Plainview's got a pretty good football team, but they just don't have a lot of depth. And this game was close at halftime. It's 14-3, but Geraldine was able to pull away in the second half, because I think they got a little more bullets in the gun right now than Plainview does. Ryder picked up their second win. They beat Whitesburg Christian 28-21. This was a big win for them, because they lost their first region game last year. And, of course, they had an injury-riddled season. They ended up finishing 2-8. So that's a huge win for the Ider Hornets. Of course, 5 bounced back to beat North Sand Mountain 52-0. Valleyhead lost over Decatur Heritage. They were up 12-6 in this game and allowed a kickoff return for a touchdown. And the wheels just run off for Valleyhead after that, as they lost 34-12. And, of course, we talked about Pisgah. They got 50-0 at halftime against Sandrock and went on to win 50-7. It just goes to show you, there's a lot of bullets in the gun for this Pisgah Eagle team. They've got great skilled people. And so this is going to be an outstanding year for the Pisgah Eagles. I know we're jumping the gun on this, but, of course, this is a big game against Collinsville coming up this Friday.
Absolutely. And, of course, they've got 5 looming at the end of the year, and North Jackson and Sylvania in the middle of the year. A lot of big matchups for the Pisgah Eagles.
Yeah, because this, and we talked about this game with Collinsville, very important, because it's going to probably give them the opportunity to get to play at home in the first round of the playoffs, and that's huge. Yeah, because, you can't chalk up, playing Sylvania 5 and North Jackson, that's going to be 3 tough ball games for this football team. Of course, the other ones, they could lose any game, but those other games are games you would think they would be favored in on paper.
Yeah.
But these 3 games right here are not givens for the Pisgah Eagles. They've got to earn that number 3 ranking they have right now. But they've been very impressive out of the gate. Even their Jamboree games, they were very impressive. So this Pruitt coach football team, the sky's the limit for this team. It's just according, and like you and I know, injuries play a big part in high school football.
Absolutely. And one thing is for the folks, and we had a bunch from Pisgah, and still got a few listening and staying with us, they've got a quality head coach that they should stay behind.
Yeah, definitely so. Yeah, Coach Pruitt is an outstanding coach, and in the community, they've got an outstanding staff. Coach Darwin's a great principal. I've known him for years. He's a quality individual. I know when he was the basketball coach at that head, went into administration and took the principal job at Woodville. I think he took the assistant principal somewhere first, but he ended up being the principal at Woodville. He still misses being the basketball coach at that head because of the relationships he built.
Absolutely.
Of course, that's what Coach Darwin. It wouldn't matter where he went. He loves people. And still, when I see him, we don't see each other very often anymore. But it's like we just pick up right where we left off. I just think the world of him. I've known him since I did basketball in high school at Pisgah, when he was just a JV coach. And so he's come a long way, and he's really into sports. He loves Pisgah and enjoys football, and he's an outstanding person too.
Absolutely. Class individual.
Yes.
You got any more down in Alabama, Phil?
That was all the scores that I had. The more ones that were important. Of course, we've got some big games coming up this week.
Well, let me roll a couple.
I guess you want to go through the Tennessee scores right quick?
Yeah, we had a couple of huge games in Tennessee. Let's start here in Chattanooga, across town, where state champion Lipscomb plays state champion Baylor. Lipscomb on Tuesday of last week, Phil, found out their 5-star quarterback Deuce Knight was leading the team to return home to Mississippi to be with his family. They insert a backup, and the Lipscomb coach is former Titan Kevin Moe, and insert a backup. Now, Phil, this is how loaded. I tell people, I don't think they fully understand how loaded these private schools are in Tennessee. Their backup has offers from UAB, Marshall, several schools of that size. So it's not like they're pulling a kid off the bench. And of course, Baylor, led by Alabama commit Amari Jefferson, squeaks it out over Lipscomb 34-31. And what, Phil, if you've not went to the YouTube channel and watched Baylor football, and it's Jim Reynolds, the Mox play-by-play guy every week on it. It's a thrill. Baylor football is like a college football. Is all I can say.
Yeah, well, you look at Lipscomb. Their first 3 games was IMG Academy. Of course, everybody knows who they are. And then the number 1 team in Class 6A in Alabama, who may be the best team in Alabama.
Yes.
Including the 7A teams. Saraland, they've got a receiver down at Saraland that's committed to Alabama. They're an outstanding team, and they took overtime for Saraland to beat Lipscomb 31-30. So Lipscomb's 0-3, but look who they've lost to.
Absolutely.
So, it's a quality football program. They've got some outstanding kids, outstanding athletes. And it's amazing to watch football at that level. It's a shame you can't play those schools. The public schools don't play them because there's such a difference. And, and I hate that because down here in Alabama, where we have private schools, but they try to make it as even as they can. Now, it makes it hard. They can even it out for football, but they have a hard time evening it out for other sports.
Yeah.
Because the schools who are private, especially like for instance, softball and baseball and basketball and things like that, they can draw kids in. Football, they can make it a little more even, but see, football kind of dictates everything. So that makes it kind of hard, but we've got it pretty good down here. I just hate it that schools and the public eye can't play Baylor, McCallie, Lipscomb. They can't play schools like that because that'd be great football games if it was a little more even. Yeah,
well, I'll tell you one I think that could play with the Baylor and McCallie, and that is Bradley Central with Boo Carter and Marcus Gore, both 4-star high-level commits to the University of Tennessee. All over Walker Valley again. Phil kind of just running that 6A area. Beat Maryville already, and now in-state Walker Valley 35-0.
Yeah, they're on a roll now. They had 3 major tests to start the year, and they got past those games. They're going to be tough to beat, even when it gets to playoffs now, because now they know they're good, and they've had what the best has been thrown at them. Walker Valley, not a bad football team at all. But when I saw that score, I said, yeah, McMinn County Bradley Central's figured out they're good now. They're going to be tough to beat from here on out.
Absolutely. And I think 6A's theirs to run. Of course, in Tennessee, similar to Alabama, we always talk about the teams from the north got to go down south. Well, anytime somebody says you got a chance to win one of the divisions in Tennessee, the first words, well, you got to go out west and play the Memphis area schools. But right now, I would mark Bradley Central as the clear favorite in 6A. Cleveland, which is going to lead to a great matchup down the road. Cleveland, 43-21 over Farragut. And Cleveland kind of continues to roll, too.
Yeah, they've been impressive. They beat McMinn County. Now they beat them. They had an impressive win over McMinn County and beat Farragut. So this team's pretty good. They may not quite be as good as Bradley Central, but if Bradley Central don't play their best, Cleveland can beat them.
Grundy continues their winning streak over Tennessee Heat, 37-8. Grundy County feel they're trying to build for so many years. Their region opponent is Sequatchie County. And in the 10 years, I don't think they've had more than a 3-win season. And right now, they've got 3 wins, 4 weeks in, and continue to roll. And I think the head coach tried to schedule up some teams to give these kids a little more confidence.
Yeah, well, and you really think about it, Randy, we saw the Jamboree, and of course, Howard was outside the Sequatchie County area, and so was Ray County. But we saw Whitwell, Grundy County. We didn't see Marion County, South Pittsburgh. We know how good they are. And then you had Bledsoe County, Sequatchie County. All those teams, there's some quality football teams there. This may be top to bottom, in that area, the best teams they've had in a while. A lot of times there's lopsided. Whitwell's been down. Grundy County's been down. But Whitwell's a lot better. You know how good South Pittsburgh is. Marion County's good. Sequatchie County's good. So there's some good football right around the Sequatchie County area right now.
In Grundy County, just to make the playoffs, an accomplishment in that region, because that region has 3 teams I would call top 10 teams in the state in Sequatchie County, Watertown, and Giles County. So if they're if they get in a playoff, they've had a successful year. Hixson gets on the board for the second time in a row with a 19-7 win over Signal Mountain. I talked to Coach Cooley and a couple of the players, and I think Hixson, they suffered that loss, quarterback loss, right before the season start. Now behind Chase Barnard, I think they're getting a little comfort filled and kind of feeling better about themselves.
Yeah, we talked about it. They just needed a win. Their first 2 opponents would have been tough to beat, even if they were healthy.
Yeah.
So they got 2 opponents that's more on their level, and now they've won a couple games and righted the ship. Now they know, hey, we're still pretty good without him. So, now they can get it better each week. But when you start out with the first 2 games they had, it's tough to build any confidence. But now they've righted the ship. Everything is fine. Let's just go to work and see what happens, and let's just continue on, because we can't go back and reset. We're 2-2. We got a chance to have a great year. So that was a huge win for Hixson last week, and then they follow it up with a big win this week.
And this was a region game, so they started 1-0 in the region. Loudon over Eastridge continues to struggle, 30-0. And Phil, a big victory for Marion County, getting over State Power Fayetteville, 21-14. And of course, we'll talk about Sequatchie County a little bit in a minute with South Pittsburgh. But Marion County now hosts the Indians Friday night. A couple of good football teams for Coach Starkey to be able to build his season off after beating Fayetteville. Now the challenge of taking on Sequatchie County.
Yeah, that's going to be a great matchup. I think these 2 teams are pretty good on an even level.
Yes.
Marion County beat Dade County 10-6. I know how good Dade County is. So Marion County is a quality team. I think this is going to be a great marquee matchup. Of course, it seems like Sequatchie County's playing a marquee matchup every week right now.
I think Middle Tennessee State was busy and couldn't schedule them. That's what I'm kind of told Coach McIntyre. Why don't he just?
That's about the only thing they could get better. Because, because everybody they play has been quality football teams.
McMinn Central over Brainerd 21-20. And McMinn County finally rights the ship a little bit, Phil. 46-20 over East Ham.
Well, McMinn County is one of those teams that their first part of their schedule has been murderous. They're, because they've been competitive against everybody. It's just the first part of their schedule, and traditionally they're always good. It's always, I remember when I lived in Chattanooga, I always kept up with McMinn County. They were kind of the team I rooted for outside of the Chattanooga area, because I love their helmets. I always liked their helmets, the Cherokees, and I just love their helmets. So I always kept up with them because they always played Red Bank and people like that. So I always kept up with them. But it's good to see them get off the snide, get a big win.
And a game coming probably at the right time. Ray County 35-0 over Howard, and Phil, Ray County started their third string running back, Ethan Davis, of course, the all-everything starter out. Howard, we've talked about, a couple of great athletes, going to get better. Coach D is a quality individual, but Ray County probably caught Howard at the right time for them.
Yeah, Howard, they're still lacking a little bit in confidence. They missed that Brainerd game. I know that had to dishearten them a little bit, but, they're kind of on trying to build a foundation. So, they're going to get better. Very athletic, but, what I saw in Howard in the Jamboree is I think it's a lot of inexperience. They self-destruct at times, and I think that comes with inexperience. So, but they're going to get better.
Sale Creek gets a win over Chattanooga Prep 12-8. And the Saudi Daisy Trojans over Sequoia. And Saudi Daisy really needed that win. Phil had struggled. And Saudi Daisy now gets on the board with the win over Sequoia.
Yeah, Saudi Daisy is another one of those teams that had a tough opponent starting out the year. They needed a conference. They needed a confidence builder, so that's a big win for them.
And, of course, up here in the game that I had, South Pittsburgh 29, Sequoia 7. Phil, that game was 14-7 with 30-something seconds to go until halftime, and it didn't feel that close. South Pittsburgh kind of dominated the football game, and Sequatchie County throws an interception. It goes up 21-7. That was kind of the end of the game. South Pittsburgh at 1A has got every opportunity to win another state title.
Well, I guarantee you, Randy, I don't know if you saw, I don't know how the game dictated, but it seems to me like probably South Pittsburgh had the better athletes.
Absolutely.
But if you can keep them in check and make them make a few mistakes, a few mental errors, you can hang in it with them. But once they get that play where, the momentum, they're a team that probably feasts off momentum, and that play was a big staple in the ball game. Had Sequatchie got down there and got it 14-14 and kept that game close and kept frustrating South Pittsburgh, because South Pittsburgh really hadn't been tested.
Right.
So right there, that allowed their horses to run after that. Yeah. And that's where they won that football game. Sequatchie County needed a couple of more breaks to stay in it. But, they held their own. They held in check. This game will go a long way for them in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, you had Martavius Collins, the Auburn commit, Wallace, the wide receiver that is not committed, but I understand he picked up a Michigan offer. When you're talking 1A football and you have and Cam Welding, and I don't know where Cam ends up at, and you can tell me Martavius Collins is a 6'5", 250-pound defensive end, and Wallace runs a 4.4 40, but Cam Weldon's a 6-foot quarterback that can play at the collegiate level somewhere, and all they did was put the game on Mr. Welding's back, and probably ran the ball 40 times, Phil, as a quarterback.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. Outstanding athletes.
Yeah.
And, we felt like, Sequatchie County was going to give them a look, and they needed them.
And gave them a good look.
A game like that.
And, of course, gave them a good look. Gave them a good look.
Well, but they needed, South Pittsburgh needed that. So there ain't no doubt about it.
Moving on, Tyner gets on the board defending state champion Tyner 27-21 over Central. Tyner needed this win bad, Phil. Everything had been going wrong for Tyner.
Well, look at who they played the first
Oh,
three
my God.
games. I mean, they were, if they'd had everybody back from last year, those three opponents would have been stiff challenges. That's the problem with being a successful program. You have to schedule the big boys, and when you're a little bit down, you're going to get your head beat in a little bit. But now they're starting to play the teams from their region and that type of thing, and they'll have a lot more success on the field because they still have the athletes.
And Phil, one team that I hear every week, and I listen to on listen to a lot of the replays on the Nickajack Network. They're a sister team of mine. Of course, in the Nickajack Network, what I'm part of, we have Marion County, South Pittsburgh, Whitwell, and Sequatchie on every week. And so I get to hear Whitwell every week. Whitwell just getting better and better. 56-6 over Lookout Valley.
Yeah, Whitwell, we saw him in Jamboree, was very impressed. And they're going to go as far as that quarterback takes them. And, of course, they're probably not going to be on the level with the South Pittsburgh, but still, this is an outstanding football team, and they're going to win a lot of football games.
Absolutely. Well, Phil, that's what I got for this week in Tennessee. A couple of big matchups up here, of course. We have our weekly big matchup at Sequatchie County against Marion County. Also, another matchup of interest to me in the area, I marked it on this list. I'm going down Walker Valley at Ottawa. I think one of those teams need that win really bad. And the other one I marked is if you grew up in this area, you know how much this would mean. Red Bank at Signal Mountain.
Oh, yeah. Next door neighbors.
Yeah.
Used to be Signal Mountain was the feeder school for Red Bank High School. But that's changed now. But, that'll be an outstanding matchup between those two. The mountain against the valley. So, I imagine there'll be a little heated exchange in that matchup where you're not going to like each other on Friday night.
And the River City Media game of the week coming up for week 5 in Tennessee, Cleveland at Ray County.
Oh, yeah, that'll be great. It's good to see those two get together because it's always great to see the Ray counties in Cleveland and Bradley Central and Mid County just outside of Chattanooga play all the schools around the area. So those kind of matchups are just outstanding. They draw a lot of interest. That's one of them where if you're a fan in Chattanooga, you might drive up and watch that ball game just because of the two schools are.
Yes, absolutely. We did not discuss who we're going to name Team of the Week here on River City Media, but I think we need to we're either going to have to go with the South Pittsburgh Pirates or the Sylvania Rams. One of the two gets my vote this week, and either one of them. But I kind of feel like we need to go with the Sylvania Rams getting Team of the Week for us also. We might have to copy WQSB.
Yeah, that's an outstanding win for them. Probably so. I think South Pittsburgh's one of those teams you're going to give it to them, later in the year because of the accomplishments for the whole season. Because they're going to be favored in just about every game. And that's like when we do the QSB scoreboard, we kind of sort of look at that, as a criteria because we know a team's going to be really good. Let's give it to them toward the end of the year because of their year-long accomplishments over one individual game. The Sylvania Rams got a huge win. That was one of them. As soon as we saw the score coming across and what was going to happen, that was immediate. And of course, one I want to point out too, Woodville, who's not far from the Tennessee line. Woodville beat Cedar Bluff last week. They were 0-15 all time against Cedar Bluff, but they beat Cedar Bluff for the first time in school history. And had Sylvania not beat Piedmont, Woodville would have probably been our team of the week because, they'd lost 15 straight times. Coach Coole's done an outstanding job at Woodville so far. They're off to a 2-0 start. And that, and that's something because Woodville, their best record all time in school history is 5-5.
That's amazing. Congratulations to Woodville on that. When I left the stadium on Friday, Phil, I left the stadium going to name South Pittsburgh the Team of the Week no matter what until I flipped over to WQSB and heard you and Jeff talking. And it wasn't just beating Piedmont, kind of beating them in a dominating fashion. We can't mention that without Hayden Pardon's name coming up. 347 yards or something ridiculous like that.
I think he had 327 on 47 carries and 3 touchdowns.
That was
so they just kept feeding him. And really, in coaching, I talked to Coach Van, and he felt like they were going to have to throw the ball more. He didn't figure he could run right at them, but it worked. He just kept at it, and it worked. And just so happened that Parham ended up running the ball 47 times.
Well, Coach, I know, doing the Coach Van show and talking ahead of the year, he took Aiden off of defense, Phil, because he wants him fresh on the offensive side. But after 47 carries, I imagine that no one is fresh after 41 carries. Hey, and shout out to Cason Hicks, the freshman at Sequatchie County. We lost first tailback Austin Griffith on about the third play of the game. Cason played 95 snaps as a freshman at running back and middle linebacker. And, what can you say about that, too?
Oh, yeah, that's outstanding for a kid like that. His body ain't quite equipped for that. So,
No.
He's got about an outstanding kid. And of course, that's like when we was talking last week with the coach from South Pittsburgh, talks about how much bigger and stronger the weight program is at Sequatchie County. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, before the Sequatchie County got on this weight program, he probably would not have been able to do that. No. But now they've got such a great weight program. These guys fill out their uniforms, and he was able to take that punishment.
Yeah, I think Cason would have said that he might wanted a couple of breaks. So that was a lot.
Yeah.
I kept looking.
You're gonna do what it takes to win.
I kept looking from, I kept going, is Cason in the game still? And of course, Austin Griffith, and you saw Austin play early in the year, a smaller tailback, and I believe we don't have full diagnosis on it, but I think it's something to do with his hamstring. So this week we'll probably have a freshman and a sophomore go at tailback for us against Marion County. And of course, at one point, Phil, and I'll wrap up on this note because I am pro-Indian and I am a Sequatchie County. We had 6 freshmen on defense playing against South Pittsburgh. Freshmen or sophomores. That says, and I think 4 of them were freshmen. That shows you how bright that program's future is.
Yeah. Well, some of it's, war attrition because you're going to have, but, just goes to show you how good that JV team was. For those guys already be prepared to play at the next level, because a lot of times coaches are not going to put freshmen in a varsity football game unless, it's just they have to. But maybe these kids are mature enough that he feels like he can put them out there.
Yeah, I know for like Cason Hicks and a couple of the other players, they look like grown men in the uniform. So a lot of good games. What's in Alabama this week that you know off the top of your head?
Well, there's of course we're kicking into region play. Week 2 of region play. There's some huge ball games going around. We'll just touch on the highlight ones. The biggest one's probably that Pisgah-Collinsville game. This could be for a home playoff berth. I know it's early in the year, but it's a huge game. This was a great game last year. It's going to be a great game this year. And Pisgah's going to have to get it. They're going to have to play on the road if they're going to get it done this week. Ider and North Sand Mountain, they play this week. North Sand got beat by 5. Ider's trying to get to 2-0 in region play. It'll be a huge win for them. Sexton Sandrock plays. Both looking for their first win. Here's another big one. The Sylvania Rams at undefeated Ohatchee. Ohatchee held on to Big Westbrook last week. They beat Sachs. So they're 3-0 right now in the early part of the year. And Ohatchee's playing great football. So this is going to be a tough matchup for the Rams coming off this win against Piedmont. They've got to put it behind them because this Ohatchee game is one of those that's going to decide a home playoff berth. So the winner of this game is going to have an inside track of at least finishing probably second in that region, I would think.
Yes. And Coach Van's another one. I think Auburn was busy week 5 or they'd be on the schedule.
Yeah, you about got that right there, no doubt about it. Of course, Plainview this week, they get Piedmont at home, so they're trying to get off the snide after the loss to Geraldine. I know Geraldine plays at home against Oaks Bluff. The Bulldogs are playing very, very good football right now. Randolph plays at North Jackson. North Jackson needing a region win. That's an important game for them. Big game going on in 5A. Southside, actually, Sardis is playing at Arab. That will be a huge matchup. Also, Douglas plays at Gunnersville, and we got a great matchup. This could decide the region title in Class 6A. That's Gadsden City hosting high-powered offense, Fort Payne. Gadsden City are a very good defensive football team, but they're going to get tested because Bernador is having an outstanding season. And I've been wanting to talk to Coach for Fort Payne, Coach Elmore, Chris, because in the game against Scottsboro, they came out and had to throw the football because they got behind 28-7 in the first quarter. And next thing you know, they were throwing the ball over the lot. They threw it all over the lot in game 2. They threw it all over the lot in game 3 against May Jemison. And I just wonder if they didn't find something in game 1 that worked and have stuck with it, because normally he don't throw the football that much. But I just wonder if they changed course or if this was the plan. I want to talk to him about it. I'd like to be able to, because it's going to be interesting to see what his answer would be.
Maybe we can get him on the show down the road, too.
I might be able to get in touch with him. I hadn't thought about him, but he's one that would come on and talk with us, I think.
Absolutely. I talked to him at media days, and he seemed very receptive to it.
Yeah. Coach Elmore, he likes to promote the kids. He's very good about that.
Well, and that's what we do this for, is to promote the great coaches like Coach Pruitt and everybody that's been on here, Coach assistants, head coaches, Coach Cooley, Coach Gilly, Coach Barger that was on with us. It's just a pleasure to have any of these coaches dedicate so much to football and the kids.
Yeah, because a lot of times they get tied up with talking to the press. It's about wins and losses. It's important. Everybody wants to win. They want to win a state championship, but there's more to life than winning a football game.
And that's what we try to do.
I think people leans a little bit too much on that because you pick a color, root for your team, root for them if they get beat. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, it's people versus people, and everybody can't win. Somebody has to lose.
Yeah, and it's losing with a class that teaches you a lesson, too. So
definitely so. It teaches you to get off the snide when things don't go well.
And, of course, the big matchup in the SEC that we'll not talk about, but, just quietly root. That's all we're going to do is quietly root.
Hey, it's one I want to win. If we don't win, it's fine, but I want to win this one.
Yeah.
That's for sure, because they sure do talk. They sure do talk a lot.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank everybody joining us. Phil, we had almost 40 people on at one time when Coach Pruitt is on with us. Kind of dwindled down to the 10 we have now, but want to thank everybody. Have them like, share, and follow us. For Phil Harris, Randall Cunningham, this is Beyond the Booth, the area's best audio magazine on high school football in the tri-state area. Join us next Monday when Phil will be off of vacation and I'll be off of vacation, and I might just go back on vacation. I don't know. Phil Harris.
I'd like to pay for vacation. And I like that name, the magazine name. That's pretty good.
I like it too. We'll stay with it. Yeah. Phil Harris, Randall Cunningham, QB1. Thank you. God bless, and have a great night.